by starting with what's being called a crisis in maternity care for both mums and their babies in the NHS. The government's ordered an investigation after a report revealed a postcode lottery of care with understaffing, racism, poor treatment of people from low-income backgrounds, a lack of kindness and even cruel comments from staff. Now, it's not ideal, but we do all know at least one person with a not great story of giving birth in the NHS, don't we, Nads?
Yeah, and I remember going to see a friend of mine in hospital, and it just none of it had been good. Of course, there's many good hospitals and many great midwives and all that, but her experience was really, really bad. And I've always been somebody that likes more holistic approach to my health anyway, and complementary, not instead of, but complementary. And I've always hated going to the GP and hospitals and all of that, so I just decided to have home births with both of my kids. I didn't want that thing of, like, you know, they change shifts and suddenly you've got a different midwife, or, you know, I'm really, really uncomfortable with any kind of nudity or anything like that, so I didn't want, like, doors being open. I wanted low lights. I just didn't want any of it in a hospital. So I had mine at home. But I have experienced, like, I had a number of miscarriages, and I remember with one of mine, which was such a shock when I'd gone in for you know, I just had a scan, and, you know, they said, you know, there's no heartbeat, which is the most, always, and, you know, the most shocking and awful moment. And then I was offered to stay at the hospital, but I would have been in the labour ward to have the miscarriage. And I actually chose to go home. Now, that's nobody's fault. That's staffing levels, that's, you know, no other place to put you, but you just feel so disregarded. It's such a huge thing to go through, and the thought to be with somebody that's also having a baby was just like, you know, can be devastating, and I know that happens often.
This is a report that we're obviously going to look into lots of different things. In the interim report, the examples, like I said before, cruel comments from staff, incidents of racism and discrimination, cover-ups, a lack of accountability, inadequate staffing and resources. A lot of those you referred to when you were just talking, Nadia. And you've worked so much, haven't you, Marlene, looking into especially the provisions available for those who do miscarry and the gap in care that exists within the NHS. So does any of this surprise you?
I mean, you say that it's nobody's fault, and that's how we're made to feel, but there is accountability that should be pointed at directly, and it's political. So, you know, childbirth and women's healthcare is misogynistic. It is shrouded and wrapped in politics, and until somebody deals with that, we're going to continue suffering this. You talk about the racism that's involved with healthcare. It's on both sides as well. You know, if you look at 43% of black women are a higher risk of miscarriage than their counterparts and their female counterparts. And you just look at all of these stats that are coming through, just to give you an idea of where the misogyny lies in women's healthcare in general. We're on our 6th generation of Viagra, the development of Viagra. But currently where we stand with, let's say, the data collection of miscarriage, there is none. We do not officially have any data whatsoever as to how many women are miscarrying. And yet we are on our 6th generation of what men's
full
needs
data
are.
on Viagra?
No. Yes.
Wow. So that's extraordinary. So when you lose a baby, that's not recorded anywhere, unless you
do
ask.
it, unless you physically go to your GP and say, I want this recorded. If it happens, as it does to so many, myself included, at work or at home, unless you then go to your GP and add that data to your records, you can't then inform your children as to what they're... You know, when you go to the doctors, they say, does this run in the family?
Well,
they don't know.
But I didn't know... I know that was the case with
We're
miscarriage.
very far behind when it comes to women's fertility. It's a postcode lottery, how they get treatment. There's EPUs that just close at 1 o'clock. What do you do if you miscarry at 5?
Yes, and I think that it's a lot of it, like you say, it's data collection, but it's also just, I don't know, connecting things up. When my friends lost their little baby Ava when she died and she was just weeks old, you know, they were still getting phone calls from midwives trying to set up appointments for home visits and stuff because nothing was connected up. And there is an element, isn't there, Judes, of... We're so used to that gap when it comes to women's health, and especially when it comes to, you know, if you're a black woman dealing with healthcare, there are so many things that we're very used to that we kind of take it as a given that perhaps it won't necessarily be what we hope it will be. And that's not to say that there aren't some great doctors, some amazing midwives. There are so many people working so hard within the NHS, but these gaps do still exist.
They do exist, and we know that because today's topic is about it. And like you said, it's like 40-something% of black women that die in childbirth or have those complications. And, when I had one of my children, you have that in the back of your head of who's going to advocate for you or listen to you at the time. There was times I felt I wasn't listened, and when it comes to your pain threshold, it's, oh, you've had a child before, you've experienced period pains before, come on, get through it. So those kind of words in that moment where you're very vulnerable already really heightens how much in danger you are when you're giving birth, and if you are a woman of colour. So I've had my own experiences like many, and thankfully, I'm one who has survived, but there's many women out there that their voice wasn't heard. Their families didn't know what to say at the time, and that's why topics like this is so important.
Yeah, and it just seems ludicrous that women give birth every single day. We are the reason why this country can continue to have the work as it does, why it continues to have, so many different things, because we as women give birth to those children that helps this country to survive.
But we've become our own worst enemies because we're so efficient at doing it. Right. And we've kept quiet for so long. The argument is, well, my grandmother got through it. Oh, my grandmother had 4 miscarriages. You just crack on.
Noisier.
She lost 8 pints of blood. You just crack on. It's this idea of that we just crack on, and we do. But we've learnt to do it in silence, and that solidarity is missing.
You've almost accepted that somewhere in the back of your head.
You have to worry of it. And that's why we all have said that there is some amazing midwives. We've had the pleasure of being in a hospital and delivering a baby and seeing the pressure. So when you say about being political, it is, because where's the spaces, where's the funding, where's the raise for the midwives, where is the support for them, where is their voice being heard? Worse if you are a black midwife, like where is their voice being heard when it comes to actually fighting for us and preparing us to do something that our body, not anybody can do.
My own midwife had suffered miscarriages, so she was speaking the same language. There are women who have experienced this as well. It is no surprise when you look at the women's healthcare that from the beginning, if you like, infancy, all the way through to, the miscarriages and the actual childbirth, all the way through to menopause, we are ignored. That is not a coincidence. And until it is politically viewed, as opposed to just through the guise or the lens of medical care, it involves all of us.
Yeah, loose women have to be noisy, right, about it. But I just wanted to say, in case you thought that Judy and I had broken into a hospital and delivered a baby. We actually did take a visit to Epsom Hospital, didn't we? And we hung out with the midwives there, and they were amazing. And little Rupert is now 2.
Honestly, I can't believe. I can't believe that.
Oh, we loved that day so much, didn't we?
I'm crying over the people that was baby. I'm sorry.
And they cared so deeply, those women that we were with, and above and beyond. And as you say, Mylene, it's political. People are constantly put in a position where they are run to ready.
And I think women shouldn't be scared. Listen, if as a single mother going into labour, I must say, women, have somebody with you, someone who can advocate for you, someone who can speak
up for you.
How important is it to say when you feel...
My sister spoke up for me when I gave birth to Alfie, and I was in God, I've lost my words now.
Pain?
I was in pain, And I was in labour for days, and then gave birth to him, and essentially I was heavily bleeding and didn't realise, and it was my sister who was like, you shouldn't have got through all of those pads already, I think something's wrong, and she spoke up for me, and she advocated for me. But the reality of it is, we know that women's voices are diminished in so many different things. Why is it not more important to everyone that our health is not put low down the scale when the world needs us in order to survive? So how about you start looking after us?